Hi Kiwi listeners, let's learn sumo. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Clayton. Don't forget to join me on X, Twitter or Instagram at Let's Learn Sumo, also on YouTube. This is the audio version of the Fight of the Year episode. If you wish to watch the video with all the replays, you can go to my YouTube at Let's Learn Sumo, where I have each of the videos in this podcast. This is the audio version where I'll do a little bit better description of the fights themselves, so you can hear them if you don't have the ability to watch the videos. Anyway, we're going to do the episode a little bit different to last year. This year we're going to do a most memorable moment, our most brutal fights, even my favourite Kimarite win of the year. And of course, I've chosen 3 top fights for the year, for Fight of the Year, out of nearly 1,800 bouts. Look, there are plenty of fights that could have made the list and plenty of highly commended fights, but these fights made the list for me on context, how exciting the fight was, and in the end, how good was the win. So let's get into it. My first fight is the most memorable moment for 2024. It's been a historic year. We had a rookie win the basho for the first time in over 100 years on debut. Takeru Fuji won in March, but unfortunately in doing so on day 14, he hurt his ankle, so we haven't seen him return to full powers just yet. Hopefully January will see him back to form and fired up. Now, to win the March basho, Takeru Fuji faced Daimami, Endo, Roga, Miyagi-ryu and Toki Hayate before Tsurunumi, Shonenumi, Ryuden and Abi. So he came into day 10 meeting Onosato on his winning streak, no losses. Onosato gave him a run for his money as Takeru Fuji chased him across the dohyo before Onosato ran out of room. Pressure on day 11 when he met Kotonowaka, now Korizakura. Kotonowaka, he missed the belt off the tachiai. He was a bit too overcommitted. That gave Takeru Fuji time to build momentum and drive Kotonowaka across and out of the ring for another win. Day 12 served up Takeru Fuji's first loss of the tournament against Ozeki Hoshoryu. Hoshoryu went for the inside grip, couldn't get it. Hoshoryu converted to an outside grip, used an arm lock to throw Takeru Fuji over the bales Kotonage. Day 13 gave Takeru Fuji his win over Wakamoto Haru, which brought him to the pivotal match on day 14, or what turned out to be a pivotal match, as he faced Asanayama, former Ozeki. He got onto the belt, but Asanayama was stronger and drove Takeru Fuji over for a Yorakiri. But as Takeru Fuji went over into the gutter, the alley, in doing so, Takeru Fuji pulled some ligaments in his ankle. He left the stadium in a wheelchair to go to the hospital. His Oyakata told him not to come back on day 15, but Takeru Fuji, he would not be denied. He wanted to finish the tournament with a win as the first debutant in over 100 years to take the cup. So he was up against Goneyama on day 15. He joined the dohyo with a strapped ankle. He did not limp onto the ring. He was against Goneyama, who, good and bad Goneyama in the tournament, can be a bit of a brawler. Takeru Fuji, he got a left body grip off the tachiai, was searching for a right belt grip. Goneyama was looking for a left belt grip himself. Takeru Fuji body pumped Goneyama back to the bales looking for a Yorakiri. Goneyama forced the grip to break and recovered from the edge. Takeru Fuji, he was using most of the power in his left leg, but he was still putting pressure on that right ankle. He changed tack and started thrusting to force Goneyama back and over the bales at the corner. Oshi Tayoshi as Goneyama goes down. His and the crowd's reaction was ecstatic to the rookie winning the cup. A look of pure relief and elation crossed his face as he lifted the cup. Surely that was the most memorable moment of 2024. On to a couple of our brutal fights of the year. First in January against Yokozuna Terunofuji. Day 15. Kirishima, he, as an Ozeki, he's trying to prove his credentials to be promoted to Yokozuna, looking to start his Yokozuna run by winning the basho. Kirishima needed to get the win over Terunofuji He was 11-3. Terunofuji was 12-2. He needed this win to force the playoff match on the last day. Yokozuna, using his bulk, got a big double upper body inside grip on Kirishima, lifted him off the ground, and then drove back to the bales, absolutely threw Kirishima off into the crowd. Officially Yorikiri, but in reality a humiliating, almost suradashi, but started with a lift and then a massive throw that saw Kirishima land in the crowd. A terrible way to finish the tournament and to show any competitiveness. It was pretty brutal as they come. The next fight was between two of our Sanyaku wrestlers in January, Hoshoryu versus Daisho on day 10 of the January Basho. The finish of this fight, well, it's just brutal. Daisho went for his Sapari thrusting, a big Nodowa neck thrust off the Tachiai. Hoshoryu absorbed it, got a right hand on Daisho's belt, almost Owata Dashinage, but he used it to control Daisho across the dojo, let go at the last moment, took a double neck hold on Daisho as he used it to toss Daisho into the crowd, almost removing his head from his shoulders. A brutal end to that one. Next up, contender of fight of the year, but to be honest, it ended up in the brutal fights of the year. Daisho makes another appearance, this time versus Hirodumi on day 7 of November. The physicality of this fight is everything. If you want to show someone the physical nature of sumo, this is the fight to show them. Hirodumi comes out hard, but Daisho started his threshing, his Sapari thrusting early, a flurry of arms as they body clashed over 10 times in full hits. In the end, Hirodumi got too committed. Daisho steps aside, allows Hirodumi to fly past him, bit of a slap down, tumble into the dirt. Gave Daisho the win. A really good physical fight. Next up, Kimarite of the year comes to us with another humiliating loss for Kirishima. The Suradashi lift out is as disrespectful as any Kimarite can be. The winning wrestler can lift his opponent off the ground and walk them out, even touching out first if their opponent is fully in the air, and that is exactly what Hoshoryu did to Kirishima. To lift an opponent of all of 150 kilograms of weight is no mean feat. Once they are lifted and fully off the ground, they're effectively considered shinatai, or dead body, being off the ground. To do that requires an incredible feat of strength. In this fight, Hoshoryu demonstrated that he is one of, if not the strongest rikishi in the ring at the moment. Hoshoryu, off the Tachiai, goes directly inside, gets himself a double rear belt grip, uses the grip to bodily lift Kirishima clean into the air with his legs kicking like a child lifted unhappily by the parents, walked him back out and over the bales, Suradashi lift out. So quite the humiliating loss, and it's hard to go past that for Kimarite of the year. Certainly for Kirishima to let himself to get into that position is pretty poor as a senior rikishi. Anyway, let's move on to fight of the year. There were so many contenders for fight of the year this year. How did I pick it? Well, of course, it does end up with personal preference, but what fight excited me the most when I watched it live, of course? What was the technique or strength used to win the bout, and what was the context of the fight? So let's go to third runner-up, Wakamoto Haru versus Yokozuna Terunofuji. Wakamoto Haru had dropped to Magashira 1. He was ill in November, had a chest infection, and he dropped to Magashira 1 for the January tournament. This fight against the Yokozuna pitted him against the top-ranked wrestler. That being said, a Kinboshi star was in the offing, as he had dropped out of Sanyaku into Magashira. Now remember, Sanyaku wrestlers cannot earn a Kinboshi or a little pay bump and the Kinboshi star if they beat the Yokozuna, but those in Magashira can. So it was very opportune for Wakamoto Haru to come up against the Yokozuna at this time. Anyway, onto the fight. Wakamoto Haru, he absorbed the initial charge of the Yokozuna as they traded body grips. Terunofuji forced Wakamoto Haru back on his defensive bail position. Wakamoto Haru used that defensive position, driving Terunofuji back into the center, where they locked up. Wakamoto Haru, he tried to drive Terunofuji back with one strand on in his hand, but a leg lift saved the Yokozuna at the bails as he again forced them back to the centre. They locked up yet again in a bit of a longer stalemate this time. The Yokozuna, he was starting to run out of steam after a long match. Wakamoto Haru used his grip to drive him back and get him back over the edge for Yorakiri, a Kinboshi win, and an excellent win for Wakamoto Haru. Second runner-up, let's look, to be honest, this was so close. I really did like this fight. Again, the Yokozuna, Terunofuji, is in the ring, this time against one of the most unpredictable, fast and acrobatic wrestlers in the top ranks. Of course, it has to be Ura. This was in July in Nagoya. Ura made every effort in this fight. Now remember, he'd suffered two nasty defeats against the Yokozuna the last two times he faced him. Terunofuji tried to rip Ura's arm clean from its socket in January and again in March. Both times looked ultra painful as he had Ura by the arm in a funny position. So when Ura grabbed the Yokozuna's arm off the tachiai, he was trying something different. It nearly had him out early as Terunofuji got him back to the bails. He danced across the Tawara and recovered to put up one of the all-time attacks on the Yokozuna. Ura, he was not going to fall into the same trap as the first two fights against Terunofuji. He repaid the favour, grabbed the Yokozuna's arms and tried to drag him around and over. Anyway, Terunofuji, he escaped. They disengaged. Ura went back in hard, grabbed the shoulder up under Terunofuji's shoulder, looking for a Katasakashi under shoulder swing down. Got a bit of a lock on Terunofuji, but Terunofuji recovers, chased him around, and Ura ended up with a rear belt grip, chest to chest for a moment. Terunofuji, he reached over the top of Ura, which was a bit of a mistake as Ura got under his chest and used a bit of strength to almost lift the Yokozuna off the ground. Now, Terunofuji, he recognised this at a moment. You could see the panic in his eyes. He released that grip immediately. Ura has the belt, drags Terunofuji around in a circle before Terunofuji comes in with a grip and forced Ura again back to the bails. Ura goes into a funny little bonsai position with one arm up high and still holding the other arm with a belt grip. It was really a bit of a magnificent effort, but it ended in an anticlimax as Terunofuji, he got a rear belt grip while he held Ura's arm up high and just walked Ura back and over the bails. Look, as I've said before, I describe this as the wiggly toddler who doesn't want a nappy change, and that's what Terunofuji had to deal with. Really good fight. Our first runner-up of the fight of the year. Excellent bout. Remember, fight of the year, here we are. Remember last year it was Taka Keisho and Midori Fuji, that epic slap fest from January 2023. I watched it again. It's still a most exciting fight to rewatch. This fight from the September tournament demonstrates strength, technique, evasion, pure and utter power. Former Sekiwake, Wakataka Kage, returned to Megashira and was facing the then Sekiwake Onosato Day 12. 3 times in this fight, it looked like Wakataka Kage was done and dusted at the last minute. Well, so Onosato, he goes in for his double lifting grip drive off the tachiai. He forced Wakataka Kage back to the bails. It looks like it was over early, but Wakataka Kage, he got an inside grip, double inside grip, forced Onosato back as he goes across the bails, using similar to Wakamoto Haru's defensive position at the bails. As Onosato, he goes backwards with Wakataka Kage on the double rear belt. He drove Wakataka Kage's head down from behind, almost gaining the Hatake Komi slap down as Wakataka Kage went forward, swings his arm, almost hits the ground with one hand. Somehow Wakataka Kage recovered, but Onosato still had the balance and immediately forced him back to the bails, where Wakataka Kage was in deep strife. 99% of wrestlers would have gone over at this point, but Waka, he gets a double inside belt grip at the last moment and somehow using all of his remaining strength, pulled Onosato around his body to the left, twisting as he does, and Onosato goes over the bales. An amazing move, an incredible escape, a triple escape, a Yorikiri, but one of the better ones you will ever see. You won't see many better escape moves in sumo as this one. A short fight, but an amazing one, and my fight of the year. This demonstrates why Wakataka Kage, in my view, will make Ozeki this year. Why? Because he has the strength, technique, and fight to make it to the top. So many good fights didn't make the cut. There was a really good one in November, Onokatsu versus Shishi in November. Really great belt grip fight. A couple of others still there. Look, that's the one we can't go past for 2024. What was your favourite fight of the year? Jump on Insta and in the comments let me know which one you chose for fight of the year. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast for 2024. I've so enjoyed the sumo this year. I've obviously enjoyed going to the tournament in Tokyo in September. That was an absolute highlight. But that's it for me for this year. I hope I've been able to teach you a little bit about sumo to make it more enjoyable for you to watch. I hope you join me again in 2024. Come back, let's go for the January tournament. Comes up in 3 weeks. Hakioi listeners, let's learn sumo.